Nice to be here.
How's it going?
Hello.
Why, hello, hello.
Hey, everybody.
What? What? Oh, sure, sorry. That's a button I need to hit. Learn how to hit.
That's all right, man.
Why does the DM need screen
New
control?
There we are. Okay. So this is the lovely nation of Aglarond. Far to the east is the Empire of Thay. Our heroes are on patrol in the marshes, the Umber Marshes, between Thay and Aglarond, approximately right here. So the Umber Marshes are thick and wild. They are expansive. They're a huge marshy area between Aglarond and Thay. And our heroes have been traipsing through these marches on patrol to see if there's bad things coming in from Thay, to help anybody who gets lost. And they know that there's a camp of mercenaries that have been catching refugees coming in from Thay and sending them back to Thay. And here's, I believe, where we were. And Joe, you'll have to move the screen around a bit. So here's where we were. I believe Silvio had just stepped forward to talk to a handsome gentleman that seemed to be more or less in charge of these folks. The gentleman extends a hand forward and grins with a broad smile, and he says, "My name is Declan Talley. How can I help you?"
It is a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Declan. We are a group of foresters, as you know. We are looking for other people to help us with some of these refugee issues that we have here in the swamp. And I've heard that you are a group of exceptional mercenaries, that perhaps we would be able to acquire your services, provided we can reach a agreement as far as coin.
And don't forget, Paige, that I am standing behind him doing my best to look intimidating.
Noted.
I believe I had moved over to this copse of woods to be hidden from all of our good friends.
Right? And Victor's still kind of in the middle, in the back, looming. There's a loom going on, loom-wise.
Yes, rear guard. I've got a bow and arrow. I'm not pointing it at anyone yet.
But you are definitely looming. Okay. So he says, what exactly do you want from us?
Well, there are a variety of people who are escaping Fae, as I am sure you are quite aware.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them happen to be people that deserve a fresh start. So we, being the nation of Aglarond, being a very gentle and gregarious folk, would like to widen our network of people that can help others, make it away from Fae, and to our lands. I was going to say our shores, but then it doesn't work quite so well when you come to the swamps.
Huh. He looks at you, giving you a measuring look. Make me some sort of, no, really, I'm telling the truth kind of roll at this guy.
Whatever do you mean? I am, of course, telling the truth. I am very persuasive.
You are very persuasive.
No part of what I have said is a lie. All right, let's see how this do. All right, so the good news is I am a bard of eloquence, and because my talent is reliable, I offer you an 18 rather than the 10 I just rolled.
Nice. All right, so he kind of looks at you, thinks about it, and says, I'm not the person who makes these decisions. You'll have to talk to the boss. Our camp's not far from here. We can take you there.
Well, we would be honored, provided that you can promise us that there will be no harm that comes to us coming or going from your camp.
It's where I'm from, we have an expression. If you don't start none, there won't be none.
These I can understand and respect.
I kind of look at Silvio out of the corner of my eye, but don't say anything. I'm learning so much about how diplomacy works. It's great.
Sure. So the man takes his cap off. It's red, and he waves it a bit, and several folks start stepping out of the trees and out of places of hiding, and you can see kind of the whole band here. And he said, well, our camp's back this way, so I guess follow us.
Paige, just as a note.
We shall.
Paige, just as a note, was there anybody who stepped out that we didn't see initially?
Let me check some passive perceptions here. I have passive perception of 16 for Mira. She saw them all. And a 14 for Ross. He saw them all. Silvio, Wildfire, and Victor.
I mean, I can only account for myself, so cool. There's nobody here that can out-hide from me.
That is so correct.
No one beats your hide anyway.
You should say that out loud.
All right, so they start trekking through the swamp. They're not particularly chatty on the way, and 15 minutes of trekking later, anybody do anything?
I lean over to Victor and say, "Is this such a good idea? Like, at this point, all we're doing is getting ourselves more in danger if these guys decide to try to whack us."
Yep.
How sure are you that we're going to be able to talk our way out of this one? Because otherwise we're putting ourselves in a really dangerous position.
I agree. It's about a 50% chance Silvio talks them all down, 50% chance we take some of them with us and die.
I'll put a walking through the swamp screen.
We're betting on the best possible outcome. If we can talk these people over to our side, they'll actually be able to gather in refugees and put them towards Aglarond. But if we just killed them all, the refugees they might otherwise have rescued would probably die in the swamp. So, trying to get the best outcome involves risk. Lots of risk.
For sure.
Well, sure, but we could be less risky and be more successful, though.
Well, we have passed the planning stage, unfortunately, Wildfire.
I mean, I would argue that we're still not at their camp yet, and we haven't.
Well, what do you want to do?
I'm merely pointing out our options. And you know what I want to do? We should have ambushed the patrol back in the forest, but that was clearly not the decision that we made.
That probably would have, given us a better chance of wiping out this group.
True.
But we're going to try and get them over to our side.
I'll play it your way, boss. I'll play it your way.
That's right.
Great.
I forget sometimes, but in theory, I'm in charge.
That
means you're also marked for death, though.
Yes, well.
It's true.
What could go wrong?
So, 30 minutes pass. 45 minutes pass.
I've made my complaints known, so if we're going to walk all the way there, we're going to walk all the way there.
Yeah, these folks seem to have pretty good field craft. Like, they know how to move around in a marsh without going too slow and without getting, caught up in sticky mud and all sorts of things. And sure enough, about an hour later, so at this point in time, I think it's kind of like late afternoon, you pull up into a small camp on a dry hillock of land. The person who's led you there, who introduced himself as Declan Tilley, says, "Hold here a minute. I need to talk to the boss. If she thinks that you're sneaking up on us or have somehow suborned me, it's not going to be a pleasant reception. So just hang on."
Well, while he steps away, I'm going to come up behind Silvio. Okay, Silvio. Now that we've lured them all together, we set wildfire upon them and burn them, right?
No. We talk to them. We find out what their rates are. We do a little bit of scouting, find out how many they are, how competent their leader is. We go from there, and then we say we will either pay them now for a down payment, or we will, go back to our superiors and come back and find them. At which point we can then decide whether or not we come back and, boom.
I thought that these were criminals. What makes us think that...
I mean, they were. Now they are just... They were criminals back in Aglarond, but we are not... we are between worlds, as they say. Perhaps these people could be of use. They're desperate. They have been kicked into this unfortunate circumstance. There is a great opportunity here for us to capitalize on their needs, and for us all to become happier for it.
I see. All right, I will continue to watch.
All right. So you see your friend go over and talk to a tough-looking woman, and they have a hurried conference, and then the two walk back over towards you. You notice the rest of the camp is the people at the camp kind of fan out into a very ready position, hands on or near weapons, and trying to get into places of cover.
Hey, Paige, while we're kind of standing here, I will send my familiar out to kind of travel through the camp. Hewitt, to travel through the camp to see if there's anyone who's hiding or anyone they might have captured here. I'll kind of lean against the tree and kind of close my eyes as this conversation goes on. So I'll kind of search the camp. Let me know if I run into anything interesting.
I forgot to bring Hewitt over to this page. Everybody knows he's the hardest working person in this particular podcast.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right, so we'll put Hewitt over here, kind of sneaking through camp. So let me show you kind of what these folks look like. So this is your friend that you had talked to out in the marsh. And this is the tough-looking woman who seemed like he went to talk to the boss. And this is just examples of what some of the other toughs in the camp look like. So what'd you say, Ron? Or whoever said that?
I just said, all right. Look like dangerous customers.
They do look like extremely competent, dangerous customers. And almost all of them have a brand mark in their forehead. Some of them cover them up, some of them don't. And they all look like criminal brands from Aglarond. Aglarond, of course, does not believe in the death penalty. They're for the worst crimes that people can commit. They just brand them and exile them. And if they're seen in the borders of Aglarond with a brand mark on their head, then they're taken off somewhere in the Sea of Stars and marooned or something like that. So, the woman...
before...
Yes?
Before that happens, do we have an idea of, how... you told us that they move quickly, they're good with their field crafts, but how much supplies do they seem to have, and how hungry or well off do these people look? The pictures obviously are relatively stock, fantasy folk, but do they look like they haven't had a good meal in a while? I'm guessing most of them are dirty. Tell me more about things that I could use from a conversational standpoint.
Sure.
Or ask me to make a roll.
How about your passive perception? Let me look at that. It's 12. You happy with that 12, or would you rather roll?
I mean, I would rather roll.
Then bring it.
If my computer will quit. There we go. Let's see what we got. 18, madam.
All right. Yeah, so they're definitely muddy. It's definitely been a long time since they've had a good bath. Many of them are pretty thin. And even some of them, it looks like their flesh is hanging loose on their bones, like they used to be chonkier and have basically been kind of starving. Their gear seems to be in tolerable shape. Most of them are not wearing metal armor because metal armor in a swamp is awful. But the leather armor they're wearing is of relatively good quality. The weapons that they carry are well maintained and of relatively good quality, but nothing great. On the other hand, you notice that none of them are wearing jewelry. You don't see a speck of gold or silver or even copper jewelry on these people. And a lot of them do look kind of hungry. Around the camp, it's real basic. It's just some tents, some logs knocked down to make seats. There's a campfire. You do see a part of a deer roasting on the campfire, but it's a pretty basic setup. These people aren't quite starving, but they're not doing great. The woman strides forward and gives you a casual up nod and says, Declan says that you actually want to talk to us. We don't usually talk to foresters. She looks super suspicious. What is going on?
I am Silvio, as perhaps Declan had spoke of me. I do not have your name.
You may call me Vardaniel. Vardaniel Harley, which is a very typical half-elven name from Aglarond. She looks pretty human, but with a little closer inspection, her eyes just have the faintest bit of a tilt and her ears are just slightly pointed. It looks like maybe one of her great-great-grandparents was an elf, maybe.
This is common enough in Aglarond.
Yes.
Oh, well, it is a pleasure to make your acquaintance. I am a member of the Foresters, as I am, again, sure Declan told you. I am here with my group. We are here looking for refugees, but also looking for opportunities to work with others that are here in the swamp. Perhaps as it may be clear with my rather large companion, and Sylvia will point to Wrath, with a broad smile. We have already made some measure of peace with the Lizardfolk tribes. They have spoke highly of your potency and viciousness in combat, and I was perhaps wondering what it would take for you to help refugees come to our side of the swamps rather than the Thayan side.
She looks at you like she doesn't quite tilt her head like a confused terrier, but several of the other people in their group absolutely do tilt their head like a confused terrier. She narrows her eyes, and you can tell she's attempting to discern whether or not you're bullshitting her. And she cuts her eyes over at Declan, and kind of just with the faintest of body language, makes a shrug shoulder gesture that any reasonable person would translate as in "what you think." The bard sighs and says, "It seems like they're telling the truth, but this is rather a novel tack for the foresters." She narrows her eyes and thinks a minute. We get paid gold by Thay for bringing in refugees. Good refugees. Goblins, other humanoids, generally not worth the time. We'll slit their throats as surely as turn them back to Thay. But human or humanoid, intelligent captives can get us quite a good bounty from the wizards and the undead over there. What have you got in competition? What do you have in competition?
Well, we could discuss terms. Perhaps that we may offer comparable or perhaps competitive rates. I can see very much that you have the marks upon you that society has cast you out, and these people that are fleeing Thay, they are very much the same. Perhaps while I would not prey only upon your heartstrings, you can recognize that these people would care to avoid the same manner of fate, or perhaps worse. As you know, Thay executes and turns many of their prisoners into undead.
Yeah, I've heard that.
More importantly, we can offer money and supplies. It looks perhaps that you may do well with a sturdy cookpot, as well as some other comforts here out in the wild. I cannot promise, rather, that there could be a home for you back in Cecil Clarendar, but you can at least have allies that can make things nicer than they are now.
She actually
certainly nicer than you appear to be doing with Thay.
She actually takes her hair and pushes it back off of her forehead, and you can see a very clear brand mark of a murderer. And she says, "I'm not welcome in Fortress Clarendar or anywhere in Aglarond."
Well, maybe you shouldn't have killed someone.
She turns towards Wildfire with an absolutely poisonous look. Like, if looks could kill, you'd be making death saves. Death saves.
I do not mind my friend. He does not represent necessarily all of the ways of the foresters in this regard. There is much good that can be done here between our peoples.
Like, Joe, she'd knock you back a couple of additions. You'd be making 3 additions. You'd be making system shock rolls.
Sure.
And
If only I took
percentage
psychic
roll?
damage from pain, but I don't.
Yes. So she snaps out of that and looks at Silvio again and says, yeah, he's got quite a mouth on him. Definitely tends to shoot it off before he's got all the facts. That's pretty typical of the foresters thus far. Pretty typical.
I'll kind of lean into Silvio and loud whisper, what about the alcohol we could offer them? Maybe a cask or two to liven the place up.
Like, she doesn't
Indeed.
blink at that, but you notice that several of the people in her camp are like, hey. She looks at Silvio measuringly. We usually get 20 or 30 gold pieces per refugee from Thay. Can you beat that price?
If you netted 20 or 30 gold pieces, you would not be in such dire straits, and your people would not be as hungry as you are. But I can figure out ways to get you gold, and more importantly, supplies. And to show my good faith, I will offer some of these materials that we brought to share. And at that point, I will reach into Rass's pack because I'm not carrying a whole bunch of wine bottles.
Why would you? Ross is kind of the Saint Bernard rescue dog of this party.
That's okay. I'll take
Well, between Rass and Victor, but
Yeah.
they have the strength score.
Look, I am more than happy to be an adorable, scaly version of a St. Bernard. It'll be fine.
Sure. All right, so Silvio's going into his own private stocks of wine.
Yeah. I'll offer, how many people does this look like?
Maybe 15? Let me eyeball it for you.
I mean, bottles? I'll offer out 3 bottles, and then I will pull out a glass, or rather like a goblet, because like a travel type thing, because that's a thing.
Sure. It's a
And
little
then I
tin
will
goblet, probably.
say forth the magic word. Yeah, I mean, so what I'm going for, Paige in the audience, is that I have a tankard of plenty, but because we're in Aglarond, instead of filling up with a giant amount, by giant amount, let me check what D&D Beyond actually says, because it's a ridiculous amount of booze.
I believe the proper scientific measurement is a metric shit ton.
All right.
It could be a fuck ton. It could be a fuck ton.
So it feels when you see those memes of like, when I need a mimosa and it's like, a huge goblet of champagne and then like 3 drops of orange juice.
Right.
So this goblet produces, upon command, 3 fucking pints of fine Aglarondian wine.
It comes in pints?
Yeah. So I'm going to say that, and then I'm going to take a drink and offer it out to her.
All right. She takes the small tin goblet of wine after you take a drink, and she takes a drink, and she pauses a moment to let it sit on her tongue, and then she can't not make the "ooh, that's good" face, but she tries to not let it linger very quickly, and passes it along to the next person one of the scouts beside her, who just empties it and then hands it back to you.
He drinks 3 pints of wine in one
No.
go?
Well, is it a goblet that'll hold 3 pints?
I mean, so here's the thing.
Because that's a bucket in my culture. I just want to,
Well, it's a stein like at Oktoberfest. Those things
okay,
hold,
fair.
Those things hold 3 pints.
In that case, the next guy, he drinks several swallows and then passes on, and people, they're not appreciating it. Like, they're just drinking it.
That's fine by me. I will need that one back. The bottles are yours.
Well, can you pay Thay's prices? I'm more interested in the gold. Though the wine is appreciated, thank you. It's been a long time since I've had anything reasonable to drink.
It does seem that we can either pay those prices or we can pay in supplies. However, I do not have that amount of coin on me. I can offer you a down payment for the first group, and then I will go back to my superiors and discuss and return, or another group of foresters will return to continue to negotiate or to pay you.
She crosses her arms over her chest. Down payment. Now you're speaking my language. I have a retirement villa in Thesk that I really want to retire to one day. What size is this down payment?
Sorry, I had to lean in for my Inception belief of her retirement thing in Thesk, because if she has a retirement thing in Thesk, she wouldn't be here in the middle of
You get the idea. It's like, when I retire, I'm gonna move to Miami, sort of thing.
Got it. So I have a number in mind. So how many? Sorry, it's been a minute. How many tieflings did we run into and ended up rescuing? It was 5?
4.
4. I mean, 4 plus 1 technically, but that didn't really.
4 points. 4 point about 05 tieflings.
And is the
that 05 wasn't my fault. I'm just saying, wasn't my fault.
Yeah.
It wasn't me.
All right, so I need, I guess, to take another step back. Is that as a professional forester who has been doing this now for 4 levels, what is an average size group that I could kind of count on them finding of people that are worth bringing back? Like, am I thinking it's like 4 or 5?
No, the average group is like
size?
2 or 3 refugees. Very rarely do singles make it. But very rare people who start in a group of, more than about 5 end up getting whittled down and separated, and you end up with groups of 2 or 3. Finding 4 is relatively unusual, but not unheard of.
All right. Then I will, if you will excuse me, I will consort amongst my fellows and my captain to discuss exactly how much we can offer you for the down payment. And then I will return if you'll give me just a few moments, and maybe it's with your 30 feet that way.
So, Ross, your passive insight is 14. Silvio and Mira, your passive insight is 13.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell that there's a certain calculus going on about down payment, wine, and the number of them versus the number of you.
That never happens.
Yes, they haven't made a decision, but the model is running.
Sure.
Victor will step up since Silvio is starting to work with money. And he speaks out. He says, I'm going to tell you something that you already know, but I'm going to say it out loud. One time you'll go to Thay. You'll bring them, say, 3 strong half-orcs that you found. But that day, the Thayan Overseer's quota will be 12. He'll take the 3 half-orcs, and then he'll take 9 of you. And it'll just happen one time. They don't care. They don't respect you. That at least will never happen with Aglarond.
You can have an inspiration point for making a good point and good role play. I would like to roll me some sort of, hey, you guys, you listen to me roll.
Our good cop, bad cop is so
It's working
strong.
good.
It's strong, man. It is strong.
All right, I'm going to go with intimidation. What? Sorry, that was investigation.
Whatever that is.
Yes. So, it is.
Were you trying to roll that twice? So once was with...
No. Once
Okay.
was investigation.